That's why there's such a high percentage of businesses that fail because people quit. They drop the ball. They say, I'm not going to deal with this bullshit.
This is too much.
I'd rather just go work for this company or that company and get a steady paycheck, get benefits, 401k, and I'm set, right? And Monday through Friday.
There's nothing wrong with that.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Stay Shining, Stay Grinding podcast. You have your host here, Jose Gallegos, and my co-host,
Carlos Castro. How's everybody doing?
All right.
How are you doing?
Good. Motivated.
Oh, you're motivated today?
Hell yeah.
Wow. What's going on?
I don't know. I like doing this. I like doing the podcast. Like helping people, teaching people.
Yeah.
I don't know eat shit like I did. I do not get in trouble by the law like I did.
Yeah. Well, it's not really the law, but
I'm just playing.
Big Brother.
It's that's what it's called, Big Brother.
Yeah, IRS is, and I guess you could call it Big Brother in the terms of business.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah,
not fun.
Uncle Sam.
That's why we're here to help you guys avoid and skip those steps and get on track and get
any
it going.
Updates on that process or anything, or
nothing?
Same old, still rolling.
Hey, no news is good news, as they like to say out there. So yeah. So what's up? What we're gonna talk about today?
I think today we decided. By now our episodes are live. We wanted to make sure that our episodes were recorded ahead of time, so we're a few weeks ahead as far as the episodes go. Reason being is that we both have busy schedules and sometimes we can't accommodate coming in and sitting down and talking. So we want to make sure that we're a little bit ahead on the process of the podcast episodes. So we're constantly, every single time we meet, we always try to think about the stuff that we're going to talk about, because we usually just ask each other, like, what's going on? What are you going through right now? What are the things that you're facing right now? What are the things that maybe people you talk to acknowledge to you?
Yep.
And it seems like Jose wants to talk about the topic of
going from employee to self-employed to employer, and then, running a whole full-blown business. So I know there's a lot in between, and it could probably go on for forever, but we're just going to kind of touch the main basis and main key component, main key subjects, just to help you guys understand. There's a huge difference from, understanding where you're an employee, you're really good at what you do. You're good at photography, you're good at cutting grass, you're good at laying pavers, you're good at installing artificial grass. But sometimes, it's a difficult transition to understanding how to run a business. Especially with, like us, right? We don't come from big education or we don't have, we never had people around us to teach us certain things. So, it's kind of just learning, as we say, in the trenches and as we go. And let's get going. I think that's a good, and people would admire, they would appreciate this, because there's a lot of people struggling from that, where they're really, really good at doing what they do, and then now they're having a hard time getting things to get, picked off the ground and take off.
Yeah. So, we both do come from different backgrounds when it comes to jobs. I have more experience, at least in the real world, when it comes to doing jobs. I was a server. I worked at a warehouse. I worked at a factory. I was a busboy. I've worked in a different trade. I've worked in HVAC. Like, I've had different experiences as far as being an employer. And I think every of one of those experiences, I had a different type of boss. And, some of them were a lot smaller companies, so I had more of a relationship with the boss. Other companies were a little bit bigger, so I didn't even know who the boss was. And then in other relationships, they were sour, where like I didn't like the boss. For you, you came from the lawn care industry. You said you've been working with your father since.
Yeah, I started working with my dad since I was 11, 12 years old. I'm 34 now, so you guys do the math. And never worked anywhere else in my life. Just started working with my dad. and I work with some uncles. So my dad's brothers here and there. I was always a good worker, so I got kind of like passed around with like, hey, are you gonna need Jose or Pablo? Oh, my name is Jose Pablo. Right? Are you gonna need Pablo here, Pablo there? No. Until I was about 24, and I decided to start Vivid Landscape, and then I just kind of went for it. So. But I also did have a hard time in the beginning. I still do, right? Getting the numbers right and everything, but transitioning from how I was really good at what I was doing to understanding how to run a business, a successful business, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, because before your only focus was to cut grass, clean up, go, mow, blow, and go, as you say. That was your only focus, and collect.
I don't know. I wasn't a mow, blow, and go guy. I was a detail guy.
Well, you get the process. The process is that.
Yeah, it was just my focus was to do a good job, the best I can do.
Yeah.
For who I was working for, whether it was my own dad. I mean, my dad was strict with us. Like I always said, I don't know if I said it, but we grew up not having no spring break, no summer breaks, no winter breaks. Every time there was a day off from school, we would be at work since a young age. So, that even if I didn't like it at an early age, I helped build the experience I have. As soon as I was 18, I was running full routes. I was, head charge of 2-3 guys, and it was good for building the experience, but it still wasn't good enough to help me understand how to run a business.
Going back to that, so were there ever times where like you guys would not tell your dad that you had, like, let's say it was Friday and you would try not to tell your dad that you wouldn't have like school on Monday because you didn't want to go to work?
Yeah, because that was the cycle. Like every time, but my mom would help us out a lot. So she would be like, "Hey," I'll be like, "Mom, tell my dad, that there's school, whatever." And she would help us out and be like, "Hey, like there's no school. We'll stay home for like 2 hours, bro." Because he's driving around, he's noticing that there's no school, so he busts a U-turn and he's running the door. Said, "Hey, where's the boys at?" We're like literally hiding under the bed, dude. Like, dude, we don't want to go. We're freaking 13, 14 years old, 12 years old, whatever. And, we would never get away, dude, because as soon as he drove around a city or two, he notices that there was no kids walking to school. He's like, "Hey, I don't know, these guys are home." So he would go and pick up me and my brother. That was just the cycle forever since we were kids, and I would dislike it. I got to a point where we would get into arguments, and he was stern in what he believed in was like, we grew up in Azusa, right? So in Azusa, you could get in a lot of trouble. You could get sucked into
talking directly to the mic.
Yeah, in Azusa, you could get into a lot of trouble. You could get sucked into the environment there, the society, and like there's people doing just bad things, and and my dad, I guess he just didn't know how to communicate it to us, but he just wanted us to stay away from that.
He would not really see you guys, let you guys try to see what's behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And he would border that life or or a glimpse of that to you guys, as instead of pulling the curtain back and being like, "Hey, this is where we live. This is the stuff that could possibly happen."
Yeah. We understood what could happen because we're in school. As soon as we went to junior high and high school, we knew exactly how I think the streets rolled around, but my dad always, I guess, wanted to not allow us to fully get sucked into that. And his remedy was keeping us busy at work. And honestly, it wasn't until I was old enough, like maybe when I had my children, like 24 years old, I had my first son, when I really understood that concept. And I was like, damn, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for what he did for us, because it could have been a whole different story. Like I wouldn't probably be here today, or I would, I don't know. I don't know what would have been the outcome, but now I say, hey, thanks, Dad, because he really took care of us on that. And even he did, back, Hispanic parents are, they don't know how to express feelings, love. They don't know how to communicate. They, they want to protect us, but they don't show it in the way that, like how I tell my kids all the time.
Way.
Yeah. Hey, I love you. Work hard, echale ganas, all that. My dad, no. My dad is just like, vámonos, cabrón. Vámonos, pinche huevón. And, for him, that's like, I guess, taking care of us, and we grew up that way, and, we're not that bad, so we're, me and my brother,
we're not bad.
We're all twitching and shit. Never did.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, that's why I say, in your experience, you've been in the industry for so long, you were kind of destined to be a part of this. Like, I know at some point in your life you did
I
go to
tried to go a
school.
different route.
You
Yeah.
did try to go to school,
Yeah.
and then
Dude, I
that
did it
didn't.
for so long. I
Yeah.
did it since 11, 12 years old. By the time I was 18, 19, I was fed up. I was like, dude, putizas, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and dude, back then, I even tell my employees, my guys here, like, to help me out, like, back then, those were big ass routes. And you guys know how it is. Like, you go work with an independent guy and there's no hours, dude. It's sun up to sundown, sun up to sundown. And I would run the routes from, I would leave 6 in the morning. I wouldn't be back till 8 p.m.
Yeah.
For
and then you would go to the gym after.
hell yeah, and I would go to the gym, and I mean, I was a lot younger,
Yeah,
but I was
more
just
energy.
I had energy, and I didn't understand because I never worked anywhere else, so I
Yeah.
didn't understand what hours and breaks and none of that was. I was just wired to be a hard worker, but at the same time, when I started to transition to doing my own thing, I had to learn those things, and people that worked in other companies were like, "Hey, bro, we're supposed to like, get a 15 here or a 30-minute there," and I was like, "Really, like." Well, how come you don't know this? I've never worked. I've never worked
Yeah.
anywhere else, bro. It's like just, la raza. You know what it is? It's like vámonos a dale, and by the time I was 18, 18, 19, I went to I did some courses on like I think I did a UCLA course and a course in Orange County to be a paramedic, and 2 years of that, and I didn't like it. It was boring. I was in one place, like I didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, like this was calling me here. Like I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and work on what I already know, what I already dedicated, 10 years of my life to. And here we are today. It's making it happen and making something out of it. The experience was there, so
Yeah.
I'm happy I decided to come back to this route because I really enjoyed doing it.
So in your experience, how would you express, since we're talking about the transition, in your experience, you went from being a part of other people's routes to eventually getting your own route, because obviously this business didn't happen overnight. Like, what was the transition like for you from going from employee to employer? Because eventually you had to have people help you with your routes, right? So how did that whole transition happen?
How did I start my own business?
Yeah, how did that whole transition? Because obviously it didn't happen overnight. It's not like one day you just woke up and said, "I got my own routes, I got my own business." Like at some point, you were like, "Okay, I got one route today, so I'm not working over here with my uncle or my dad."
It actually happened all of a sudden because, funny story, everything plays out because I wasn't. When I had my first, when we were expecting our first child, I went to my employer, which was my uncle. My dad's.
Try to talk to the mic.
when everything happened pretty quickly, so when I was expecting my first child, I went to talk to my uncle. I was working with my uncle at that time. I was getting paid $110 a day, working sun up to sundown, right? And I was like, hey, I'm gonna have my first kid, so can you boost me up almost $10? Like help me out. And he was like, no, man, like no can do. Like there's no money. This and the routes are tight. Like we can't afford it. Sorry, it's part of life. It's kind of like it's a you problem, right?
Part of life.
Which it is, right? Like I got a little sour towards it, but
no, it's a part of his life. It's not. That's like telling somebody that you can't give them a raise and there's no money, but you're working them from fucking sundown or sun up to sundown, and you're gonna try to haggle them for an extra $10, like, and because they're family, and you're gonna have a kid, utilizing that type of if.
And that's the not knowing my own, like 10. I would have been content with $10, but I would have been like, hell yeah, I got an extra $50-$60 a week.
Yeah.
Which I should have been asking for an extra $50 the amount of work I was doing. But I was blinded by, just I was limited to believing how much I'm worth at that point.
Yeah.
So long story short, I did get upset, and then I was like, I thought it over. I went home a little upset, disgusted, and then I called him up, and I was like, you know what, straight up, like I'm done. Like I'm gonna go work somewhere else because honestly, it's unfair for me to work 12, 13 hours a day for you, and you can't really even take care of me. So, I pretty much just quit there and there. My dad was calling me crazy. Oh, you're crazy, you're dumb. Why would you do that? Like, well, what are you gonna do now? And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go start knocking on doors.
Mhm.
And sure enough, that's what I did. I started just knocking on doors. And parents, like my dad said, he doesn't know how to express, but he felt bad, so he hooked me up with the first 6 houses.
Mm.
He was like, "Hey, I have this small route on Saturdays that it's kind of like in the way of other things. So go ahead, take these houses and do what you can with it, and hopefully, So I was like, "Well, yeah, but can I borrow any equipment? Can I borrow some trucks and a truck and some equipment?" And yeah, he hooked me up, and I was doing it Saturday. But then, 6 houses that were really small would take me like by myself a few hours. So what I would do, since I had the truck already, I would just go around the neighborhoods and knocking on doors, and I would just be honest, like, "Hey, I'm starting my own business. I really want to get this going. I'm expecting a kid soon, and I just want work." And I was just brutally honest, and people were like, "Oh yeah, like cool, yeah, here you go." And that's how my route started growing fast. I would just knock on doors. Back then, I mean, I'm talking about like there was the internet and there was like Home Advisor. But I did Craigslist advertising. I did what was the other one? I did Craigslist. I don't know if OfferUp was around, but I did those free, and whatever was free, I did some kind of advertisement in. And yeah, long story short, things started taking off, and I started working for myself. And pretty quickly I started buying my own little equipment. And then I bought my first truck, 2003, 2004 F-150, a Ford. It was a old used one, and just got to work. I think that's when you started helping me for a little bit, right?
Yeah, that was around like was it 2016, 2000?
16, 17, yeah.
Yeah.
And then and that transition was hard because as I was telling you earlier before the podcast is, when I was there for 120, and keep in mind I would have stayed for 130, $10 more, I would have probably been there.
Mhm.
So in my mind, if I was to get 150 a day, dude, I thought I was killing it
Mhm.
because I never seen that kind of money before. And as I started to grow, and I'm paying my own gas, right? I'm paying my insurances on my trucks. I wouldn't really keep that in mind. I would think, man, I'm keep 150 days, $150 a day. Even $200 days to me were like fantastic. I thought I was hitting home runs all day.
Mhm.
Until, at the end of the day, when you're paying your bills and your overhead and all that. And
And you realize you're only making $20 a day.
exactly, dude, exactly. So that's why I wanted to have this podcast, because a lot of people are in that transition where they're just leaving being a great employee, wanting to start to being self-employed.
Yeah.
And soon they're going to be employers and employ people and have people help them out.
So you feel that people shouldn't, and let me think about this. Like, do you think that people shouldn't just jump in like right away when they try to start their own business? Like, do you think that someone in your industry, let's say someone that, works for a company but has a route or two, you don't think that they should let go of that company job that he has to just follow the routes and try to get more growth out of that? Like, what are you trying to like?
I think that they should.
Mhm.
They should, because in any business, any industry, how hungry are you to grow
Mhm.
as a company, as an individual, whatever? That determines at the end of the day where you're at as far as a year down the road, 2 years on the road. I'm not saying not to go full like head first. I'm saying go all in, but understand that it's different getting $150, $200 a day, and then now being in charge of having your own expenses, gasoline,
Yeah.
insurances, and all that. So the reason for this is to help people see past just earning $50 to $100 more a day. It's not about the number. When you're self-employed and when you become an employer, you're growing your business. Now you have to keep in mind, putting money aside for the company, for the growth of the company, not just putting more money in your pocket as an individual.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I want to. Hopefully, this makes sense for people and say, hey, look, I have a part-time and a full-time. You can let go of your, Jim Rome, he's a very old school personal development guy. And he always says, keep your full-time job until your part-time job makes just as much as your full-time.
Mm.
Then you can drop your full-time
side job or side hustle.
Your side hustle.
Yeah.
So your side hustle or your part-time job, your side hustle job makes as much as your full-time job, then you can drop that
Yeah.
and go all in.
Yeah. And that's why I ask you that, because I think some people quit the full-time job, assume that because the business did well 1 month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah. No.
And they automatically assume that every single month is going to be like that.
Yeah.
And, I've seen a lot of those, things happen. And I've seen a lot of people go through those hurdles. And in reality, it's like, yeah, if you don't understand the concept of how just general business works, and it doesn't even have to be the industry you're in or in the industry that I'm in. Like, if you're not making or expecting the same amount of revenue every single month, there's contracts, there's, people have contracts for 3 months, 6 months, a year. If you're not in that type of position where you have a contract where in the next 6 months I'm getting paid this much from this client, this much from this client, therefore I have enough to cover my bills, rent, whatever, then at that point it makes sense to jump and can take that, because then you have that 6 months of time span to plan for the next 6 months. And I think a lot of people don't do that. I think a lot of people just assume that, like, okay, since I'm doing good now, I'm just going to fuck everything over, fuck it all up. I'm going to buy a nice car. I'm going to buy a truck. I'm going to get a new apartment. People go into and jump in head first without even considering what's at the end of that tunnel. And even then, so some people go in without even creating any contracts,
And that's the hard part about business, especially now that you're self-employed, right? Even if you're just by yourself, like you said, you can be killing it for a month or 2 months, but that's the difficult part of the stuff that people don't talk about business, that 2-3 months you're killing it, and then the 4th month it's dried in the Mojave Desert. You don't have nothing. And guess what? You just got a new truck. You just got a new car for your fiance or your wife or whatever.
All of a sudden you're an Uber driver.
So like, yes, dude, that's the hard part. It's sustainability is really hard in business. And I always tell, if you're not growing, then you have to look at what you're doing too. Cause you have to offer quality work. You have to offer value. You have to have good customer service. It's not just like closing deals. Like there's a lot. That's probably a whole different podcast.
It's not even about just closing deals. I think it's just like, some people like to glorify the idea of like, I'm a business owner, so therefore I'm successful. Like, not everybody is in that position. Like, for example, ourselves, like, we're still in the early stages of business. And to be honest, now at this point in my life, before when I started, if you asked me 2-3 years ago when I first started, it's been more 4 years. If you asked me 4 years ago when I started, would you imagine yourself being in this position that you're in right now? No, I would think that somehow I'd be a millionaire by now. But in reality, I don't even now, after going through so many hurdles and experiencing so many things, I'm like, oh no, I'm building a future for myself. I'm building a future, which who knows when that future will come. It depends on how much effort and work and how much drive and passion and love that you have for this. That will determine that for you. And the industry too. I think the industry plays a lot in it too. Cause I've seen people grow really fast, and some of them take longer to grow, but just because you've gotten the fact of becoming a business owner doesn't mean you can make these decisions of, doing the unnecessary expenses. And now when I look back and think about this stuff, I'm like, man, now where I'm at today, I'm thinking about what I'll be like when I'm like 40, 10 years from now. I don't try to think about what it's going to be like in 2 years, because what it's going to be like in 2 years is going to go by in a snap. Like the last 4 years have gone by in a snap. And I think we always get jaded to the idea that now I'm a business owner, quote unquote. Some people are business owners and don't even have LLCs or anything. But now they assume that, oh, now I make my own money, therefore I can do whatever the hell I want. I can buy this, I can buy that. And eventually when the well does get dry, next thing you know, we start seeing that, oh, the person's very quiet on their account, or, now I see them, oh, I just got a delivery from so and so who was saying that they were their own business owner. So, I mean, it's at the end of the day, we're trying to tell people is that don't fall in the trap and don't become a victim to what like society tends to tell us about how starting your own business is going to be this lucrative concept and idea. At the end of the day, it really isn't, because you're not going to get those fruits of the labor till
way down the road.
Way down the road, or maybe not as soon as others. Like I said, we see a lot of people online that glorify the idea, and all of a sudden, like they say, like I said in the first episode, where it's like you claim that your business, because your business is $1 million business, now therefore you're going to give yourself the title of a millionaire.
Yeah.
When in reality, going back to the conversation we had earlier about like 7% or 10% of profit of a business, therefore that's what you're actually making. So,
yeah. And exactly. Going to that conversation. I mean, when you guys are starting off, like, understand that maybe for a little while, it's okay to just make a few extra dollars for yourself a day. But then when you start having 1, 2, 3 employees, then you have to start calculating, the payroll expenses, insurances if you have that, workers' compensation, general liabilities, overhead if you're paying any truck payments, insurance on your trucks. If you're renting a space for your yard, you have to kind of total all that up, divide it by the amount of employees you have, and divide that by the days you work. That should give you a rough idea of what you should be putting on top of the daily rate that you pay your employees. So let's say you pay them 120 and all your overhead adds up to 200. You should be charging 320 for each employee in order to cover all your bases. If not, you're just going to be making money until the end of the month. And then you're going to be wondering, well, how come I'm not making money? How come I'm not making money? And that's what systems and everything place. A lot of people, I see like how my uncles used to work, right? Like they're, probably able to make some money because they work for themselves and they work 12, 13 hours a day. So they're able to get double production versus someone like me. I can't work that many hours without compensating additional like double time pay or whatever. These guys just, aquí cash, un cachecito bajo la mano. They don't bother to take care of their people, but all they care about is your pocket. So that's another thing too, that when you're starting, then you want to start growing, you got to be sure that you compensate your people well, that you take care of your people, because realistically, you could be a good salesman, you could be a good upfront leader, but the people are the ones who are actually doing the work for you and moving the company forward. So, I've done a lot of mistakes. I was, I got into a little hiccup with one of my guys the other day. And, he made me realize some things, and I'm just like, I take it very serious what they say, because I'm like, dude, how can I be better, right? How can I do more for them? How can I be a better boss? At the end of the day, like, I can't beat myself up so much, because I feel like in a short period of time, like scaling to, 24 or 25 employees, having them all show up on time, having them all show up and go to the field, and just in generally take care of business, like that already says a lot.
Yeah.
It already says they like where they work. They're happy where they work. They're probably happy, with how I treat them. I have decent trucks. They're not all breaking down on the freeway, and so we're set up pretty good, And I'll be honest, 7 years in, I'm not a millionaire. Like, I haven't made a whole ton of money. I've been able to figure it out as I go, but I've been able to have
mistakes.
Oh yeah, too many mistakes, right? But that's exactly why we're here. So, the guy that's in year 1 or year 2, or month 1 or month 2, you guys can kind of use this and apply it to your life and get things going for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't know this, you should know this now. You always eat last as a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
You always eat last. You are the last person, especially in your business. My business is a little different. I'm an employee of 1. Like, it's not, it's not the same to where you're at. But in your business, it's, you have so many people in front of you. You get the last bit of crumbs that's left over. If there's any crumbs that come out that month.
Dude. Yeah.
So, and that's the concept too that we're trying to tell people, is that, like, once you do become that business owner, and how he was saying, you have to take into consideration the gas. You have to take into consideration the overhead expenses. In your case, insurances, workers' compensation, things like that. Payroll taxes, accountants, stuff like that you have to take into consideration, that which people don't take into consideration. And that is what makes the difference between a business that will grow and a business that will stay the same forever. Just like how you mentioned about your uncles who are just cash only type of individuals. Mm-hmm. Is there any growth there? No. They're probably still doing the same shit they were doing when you first started your business.
For 40 years, it's just 2, 3, 4 guys, if anything. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like if people want to do that and just, the only thing that's wrong with that is that they don't take care of their people.
Yeah.
The people who make the projects become what they are, and the people who show up and who are very labor intensive and get down and dirty in the field, and all they care about at the end of the day is filling their pockets. And to me, that's why there's those results. When you take care of people, people will give back to you in a sense. And not everybody thinks the same, but at the end of the day, people are very grateful and appreciative, and people are loyal still. There's still loyalty out there.
Yeah, I think the biggest fear for you as a business owner is probably one day looking at the cameras and nobody showing up in the morning.
Yeah, it is. But
I think that I heard that one time on a podcast that a corporations or just any large businesses' biggest fear is that someone's not going to be there to, work.
Yeah, but you see that only happens if you're a dick and that you live by that like fear mongering role and everything. Like you won't be able to have sanity. You won't be able to have peace. I can go to sleep at night comfortably because I know my guys will show up.
They'll show up tomorrow.
Hell yeah, because they know I take care of them. They know I have it since 7 going on 8 years. I've never missed a payment for them.
Yeah.
Weekly. They get paid weekly.
No checks have bounced.
Hell no. But I haven't got a check sometimes, but that's just me. Like I have to deal with that myself as an individual.
Yeah, but you're learning now that you have to pay yourself separately.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, but sometimes, that's what it takes. Like it takes to, if you made $5 today, you put $5 back in. If you made $500, you put $500 back in. If you made $5,000, you put $5,000 back in. You got to feed the beast. You got to feed what, and grease up and grind it. What's helping you depends on the vision. Like if you want to stay small, go ahead and go buy yourself those luxury things, whatever. But if you really want to grow and make something 10, 20 years down the road, that's
sustainable.
Sustainable. Yeah. You go ahead and you reinvest everything back into the business. And then on the long term, it'll start paying out. But, I've been patient and I'm not worried about, where I am today. I know I'm headed in the right direction. I know my team's good. I know we're growing and that we're making things happen. And
would you say that the Jose from last year who got the big letter in the mail, would you tell that Jose to just relax, trust the process, we'll get through this?
Yeah.
How would you think that Jose would react? Like
if I would have got
how would you, you going back to yourself right now, and right now you're in a better mindset. You're not, you've already accepted what happened. You're like, okay, we're getting through this thing. There's light at the end of the tunnel. When the other Jose from back then, from a year ago, when they first got this letter, the whole world dropped.
Yeah, I was losing my shit.
How would you think that Jose would take you right now going back there and telling them like, just, trust the process. Like you'll be okay.
It would be hard to believe myself. Yeah. Like from a year, like myself a year ago would be hard to believe myself today, because I feel like everything that has happened and in anybody's life, you have to go through those certain things in order to become who you are today. And what has made you who you are today will not make you who you are going to be in 5 years. Right. So what got you here today will not get you there. And I feel like me going back and saying, hey, relax, everything's gonna be cool. I still wouldn't really listen because I'm gonna be in panic mode.
Yeah.
But I think that's only God knows, and I'm a big believer, right? I'm just saying, like, only God knows why certain things happen. Why anything generally happens. But you just have to also view it in a way where you have to learn how to catch that, correct yourself and learn how to move forward from there. Because there's a lot of people, shit happens and they're, they just cross their hands and cry in the corner. Like, no. You got to learn how to analyze that. You know how to digest it, break it down into steps and say, all right, this is where I messed up. This is how I'm going to improve. This is how I messed it up here. This is how we're going to get better. This is how we're going to, and it's just a growing movement moving forward, but it's not going to happen if all you're doing is throwing everything around and just quitting.
Yeah. And as a business owner, again, transitioning from employee to business owner or employer, you're going to go through those type of transitions and those type of experiences. And mainly a lot of people tend to do the opposite of run, hide, avoid, and then they end up getting themselves more in trouble or into situations in which they don't want to be in. Yeah. And then, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I find myself working again for this company. I make more money anyways. Why does it matter?
Exactly.
Like
at the end of the day, people go through all the stress, anxiety, and, when you're too busy, you're too busy. When you don't have enough work, you don't have work. So you're always stressed out.
Yeah.
Too much work, you're stressed out. Not enough work, you're stressed out. Not enough cash flow, you're stressed out. Too much cash flow, what do I do with it, right? So it's like, what the fuck do we do? So at the end of the day, people end up, that's why there's such a high percentage of businesses that fail, because people quit. They drop the ball. They say, I'm not going to deal with this bullshit.
This is too much.
I'd rather just go work for this company or that company and get a steady paycheck, get benefits, 401k, and I'm set, right? And Monday through Friday.
There's nothing wrong with that,
No, there isn't.
It's not something to look down upon or, hey, actually, people who actually have those lives are probably much happier and live less stressful lives than we do. But I don't know. I think we just both I think relatively the reason why we both connect so much is because we're both very ambitious. Like we both want more than what we have. Like, for example, you land something new, you get excited, on to the next one. Yep. Same thing with me. Like I get something new, I'm excited, on to the next one. You're never full. We're never satisfied.
We don't celebrate too often.
Yeah, we're never satisfied.
Like, oh yeah, cool, let's go.
And I think some people, and then also when we get the bad things, we try to analyze those things. And don't get me wrong, there's times where I'm like fucking shitting bricks too, and I'm panicking. But like what we try to do is just to continue and accept the fact that like this is part of this.
All you do is move forward.
The process. And someone that's going to start their own business or start their own route or start anything by themselves, you're gonna have to learn to get through these things. You're gonna have to accept these things, and if you don't, then you'll just stay the same way you are, and you can happily live your life that way and continue to be a small business in a small town. And, if you are happy with that and it brings you success for you and your family, then who are we to talk? But I think the difference is we are trying to surpass that demographic of individuals. So,
yeah. And at the end of the day, one tip that I'll give you guys is I've learned from older guys in business, and I talked to you the other day about the guy doing $50 million a year. Leave your ego at the door, guys. Your ego is not your amigo when you're on field dealing with a whole bunch of problems. You want to be a logical thinker. You also want to learn how to control your emotions, because if you're such a reactive person and you're reacting to everything that happens, bro, you're gonna get a stroke in the first year you're in business. Like you need to learn how to chill out. You need to learn how to pay attention to the signs and learn how to control your emotions in order for yourself to move forward. And such a large business. I was telling you about the $50 million business. The guy, I say, I've been great, guys. I've been able to get mentored through my clients that are very successful, $50 million, $55 million businesses, and everywhere in between. But the guy was saying he broke even for the last 3 months, and he was chilling. He was like smoking a cigar. I was over there looking at some plants he wants to add and stuff, and I was getting some measurements for mulch. He was smoking cigars. Yeah, I was like, hey man, like how do you do it for like? I'm a big question asker, right? So I'm like, how do you do it? How do you have your systems and everything? And he was like, oh, when you get to a level this big, like profit margins aren't that sexy. Like it's literally like, he's like, to be honest, he's like, I've broke even for the past 3 months. I was like, I'm a $50 million business, and he's like, yeah. He's like, I'd be lucky if I make 5%. 7% means we're killing it, but I guess because interest rates and inflation and stuff, so they haven't been able to like really get that going. But you know, and I feel like I've had conversations with guys starting off, and they're like, "Oh, if I ain't making 30%, like I'm not touching that project." I'm like, bro, like, you know, if you look online on Google, whatever, and check landscaping, you know, what's a healthy profit margin? It is 7 to 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're making 10% and above, dude, you're killing it. Don't throw a job away because you're not making 30%, 25%. Again, that's going back to society and all this talk on the internet about, hey man, like I make 25%, 30% profits, 50% profits. There will be some projects, but when you have a lot of people, a lot of overhead, a lot of employees, you have to really pay attention to those numbers and see if you can go in and for 10% on $100,000 project on a, you know, whatever the project is, it's still something that you're bringing into your business. You know, I'd rather have guys working for 10, 7%, 15%, 12%, whatever the number is, than to be parked and have payments not, you know, not moving what I've already invested into.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
All right. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, you deal with big numbers, dude.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the client I was telling you about, I met him second, but I met his biggest competitor first, right? The client, Jim Hernandez. And he gave me a shop tour, $55-60 million company, huge yard and machinery. You know, he's buying $1 million machines cash, you know, like, or I don't know if it's cash or writing a check, but he's paying it in full, you know what I mean? And I'm just blown away by it. But he had the same conversation saying, hey, like, we're making 5, 6, 7%. Like his eyes would, you know, but then again, 6% of $60 million, like, fuck. That's not that bad, right?
Nice. But that's over $1 million.
But I could imagine the amount of stress and anxiety and how many people are in place to move that much money.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you see certain amount of profits. But again, you know, it's when you're in it because you like it, you don't really, I mean, you don't do it for, you know, certain things. You do it because it's already in your blood. We like the adrenaline of being in the mix and you know, the obstacles and the roller coaster and all that good stuff. So
it's exciting.
Yeah, that's
Very
at the end of the day. And then we're wondering, oh, damn, like, you know, we see an opportunity, a missed opportunity or a new one. We're like, oh, I wonder how that's going to be. So we kind of like put ourselves into that trouble. But at the end of the day, we're out of it. And we're like, fuck, that shit was hard. But we enjoyed it. Right?
Let's do it again.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
That's great. I think that's a good episode. I think we bounced around a lot, but we managed to get full circle to come back into this topic. So if you have if this is the first episode that you've listened, we have a lot more that are very similar to us like this. You know, we want to continue to give out more episodes. That's why we relaunched the podcast. We were on a slight pause for about a year and some change, and you know, we learned a lot, and that's why we're back to give you guys, hey, look what we learned in the last year and a half where we fell on our faces and had to eat shit. So yeah, now we're back again, back on the groove. And I think the next time, if we do eat shit again, we can't stop this. We have to stay on. So, yep. So that's it. Anything else you got to say?
That's it, guys. So just remember, if you guys have any questions, any subjects you would like us to talk about, either drop it in the comments, send us a message on the social platforms, which is Stay Shining, Stay Grinding, both podcast, Instagram, TikTok. We'll be on YouTube. We'll be on Spotify. We'll be on the podcast app. So just make sure to drop any kind of information. We'll look at it. We'll gather you guys' feedback, and then we'll work on making a plan to get back to you guys and do a podcast about that.
Yep. All right. Right on.
All right. It's a wrap, guys. So as always, stay shining, stay grinding, and see you guys on the next one.
Peace.